For spine-chilling and terrifying treehouse tales, unearthed secrets that will haunt you forever, Jake and Emily were just 10 and 8 when they moved into the cheerful yellow house on Maple Lane. But beneath the surface of their idyllic suburban lives laid a mystery that would swallow them whole. The moments of innocence cracked like the paint on the old treehouse they discovered lurking in the woods behind their backyard. It was dark, foreboding, with a sense of unease radiating from its chipped planks. Creaking would seem to whisper secrets of bygone whispers. Every gleaming ray of sunshine that filtered through the branches cast shadows that looked almost human. Days blended into weeks as they ventured up the shaky ladder, and that treehouse became their sanctuary. They spun wild tales of adventure, but when they dove deeper, they uncovered something far more sinister. Hidden within the wooden walls, they found dusty journals, pages yellowed with age, filled with accounts of missing children and strange happenings in Meadowbrook. Goosebumps bubbled on their skin, fear creeping in with every name that echoed familiar: a friend's name, a neighbor's name. Then came the night Mr. Thompson disappeared, their beloved neighbor. His garden, once vibrant with life, now stood wilted, no longer tended. The laughter of the nurturing community faded into an eerie silence. Glancing at each other, the summer night air felt thick, the faint crackling of leaves morphing into hushed whispers. Jake and Emily rushed inside, but their parents brushed off their worries, attributing it all to overactive imaginations. "Kids will be kids," their father chuckled, oblivious to the chill creeping in as shadows danced at windows in the dark. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Driven by fear and determination, Jake dared Emily into the woods that night. Their hearts raced in the quiet darkness, breaths hitching at every snap of a twig, souls entwined in the growing dread that clung to their skin. And then it happened. They stumbled upon forms lurking in the swirling fog, silhouettes twisted in unease. The once safe haven of the treehouse now felt like a trap woven with sinister intent. The journals warned them of malevolence and ancient, horrific legacy linked to the town. They saw strange symbols planted on their porch, messages that felt like icy fingers crawling up their spines. Their parents grew erratic, eyes wide with secrets unspoken. Were they who they claimed to be? Was the darkness gripping Meadowbrook reaching into their home? Cornered between reality and fear, the siblings knew they had to confront what resided in the whispers of the woods. The haunting echoes of laughter filled the air again, only now they felt wrong, twisting with horror, creating an unbearable weight on their chests. And as they clutched hands, terrified for the truth buried beneath familiarity, a scream sliced through the night, a sound that froze their blood. Their parents stood at the forest's edge, eyes unblinking and alien, shadows dancing behind them, a moment that would haunt them forever. What lay in wait just beyond the trees? Would they unravel the darkness or become part of it? The air thickened as Jake and Emily stood frozen, their parents' silhouettes looming with an unnatural stillness. A cool breeze rustled the leaves, a whisper that sent a shiver down their spines. Something was very wrong. Those familiar faces twisted into fabrications of themselves, eyes blank and unfeeling. "Mom? Dad?" Jake's voice trembled, breaking the oppressive silence. But the only response was an echoing laugh, a sound once warm and comforting, now edged with malice. It clawed at their insides. Without thinking, they turned to flee, but the forest seemed to shift and tighten like a vice around them. The branches gripped at their hair and clothing, as if the very woods were alive, preventing their escape. "We have to go. Now!" Emily shouted, her little fists clenching with fear. They bolted into the dark, heartbeats racing, terror painting every step as they darted past gnarled roots and jagged stones. Behind them, that dreadful laughter morphed into whispers that echoed along the branches, beckoning, taunting, promising darkness. Suddenly, the world around them blurred, shadows flickering in and out like a faulty light. They stumbled across the old treehouse, a refuge that now felt like a tomb. Jake rushed up the ladder first, Emily's breath hitching as she hesitated, glancing back at the encroaching darkness. "Emily! Hurry!" She climbed, skipping steps, her heartbeat a drum in her ears. Inside, the musty smell of the journals wrapped around them like shrouds. "What do we do?" Emily gasped, eyes darting around the cramped space as her fingers brushed over the dusty pages that had once intrigued them. Jake read the last entry aloud, words heavy with dread. "They come for you in the dark. You can't hide, they'll find you." The air thickened, and Molly's face flashed in his mind, a girl they had laughed with just days ago, now marked as missing. His stomach churned, an icy fear washing over him. "Emily, this is bad." An unnatural crunch sounded outside, like something dragging across the ground, a thick, heavy mass shuffling through the leaves. The nabber frequented the woods, the journals warned, hungry and relentless. The siblings huddled close, breaths shallow, eyes wide. They could hear it now, its uneven footsteps echoing their own quickening pulses. "Don't move," he whispered, terrified to even breathe. But if they thought the noises would fade, they were sorely mistaken. The sound escalated, and suddenly the floor of the treehouse creaked under an unknown weight. Footsteps approached, rhythmic and slow, circling beneath them. Panic bubbled anew in Jake's chest. Then, Jake noticed something out of the corner of his eye, a shadow creeping against the wall. Not just any shadow. These were the figures from the journals, their forms shifting and elongated, aglow in the darkness like wraiths reclaiming their territory. "Jake!" Emily gasped, clutching his arm, her nails digging into his skin. "What do we do?" Before Jake could answer, a loud thud reverberated through the air, shaking the very bones of the treehouse. The footsteps stopped. Silence drenched the atmosphere, and in that deadly silence came a voice, soft yet grating. "You didn't run fast enough." Time stood still as fear enveloped them like a suffocating shroud. What creatures were lurking just beyond their reach? A new resolve surged through Jake. "We have to find a way out," he shouted, adrenaline pushing him into action as he scanned the room for another escape route. How deep did this horror go? Would they discover the truth behind the darkness, or would they be swallowed by its insatiable hunger? As he edged towards the window, the unearthly laughter erupted once more. "You can't escape. This is only the beginning." Was this treehouse still their sanctuary? Or had it become their prison? With a final glance at the shadows closing in, Jake knew they were running out of time. What horror awaited them in the abyss of the woods? Their next choice might just seal their fate. Jake's heart raced as he scanned the dimly lit corners of the treehouse, desperation fueling every thought. Shadows danced on the walls, taunting them, mocking their plight. "What do we do?" Emily whispered again, her voice trembling, eyes filled with terror. "Look for anything," Jake hissed, rummaging through the forgotten relics of their childhood. Old toys. Frayed ropes. Dusty flashlights that flickered but barely caught the dim light. Each item seemed to mock them more than help them. Another thud echoed below them, shaking the floorboards, and a wave of rustling leaves sounded far too close. "It's down there," he breathed, barely able to contain the fear that pooled in his gut. "Should we climb down?" Emily suggested, her voice a fragile thread. "No. We can't risk it," he replied, trying to silence the doubt creeping in. "There had to be another way. We need to find something, a weapon, or we're not supposed to find anything." The shadowy voice laughed from below, a chilling sound that crawled over their skin like spiders. "But I knew you would try." The walls felt like they were closing in. Jake's panic surged, and he stumbled backward, nearly knocking over a dusty box. Inside, crumpled notes caught his attention, strange, cryptic scribbles, diagrams of intricate mazes. "This is from the journals," he thought, trying to decipher the words. He held one up, eager to glean some wisdom from the pages of horror. "Listen." It says there's a way to confuse them. We need to create light. That works in movies, not in real life. Emily protested, trembling. He couldn't afford to let fear win. But what if it does? We have to try. As they searched frantically, the darkness thickened outside. The whispers beckoned louder, taunting them with memories of happier times that now felt like a cruel joke. The laughter morphed again, this time into an eerie chant, a haunting melody that wrapped around them like fog. Jake's eyes fell on the old lantern hanging near the wall, remnants of its glory somehow still intact. Emily! The lantern! She rushed to his side, hope flickering in her eyes. Together, they fumbled with the lantern, nearly dropping it in their haste. With trembling hands, Jake found a flickering match, heart pounding as he struck it against the rough wood of the treehouse wall. The flame danced to life, casting long shadows into the corners of the room. But as the lantern's glow expanded, illuminating their sanctuary, the shadows outside began swirling, growing darker, angrier. No! The voice hissed from below, and the thud became a roar. That light is mine. The siblings exchanged terrified glances. What if it can't hold them back? Emily squeaked, her face pale. It has to. Jake insisted, raising the lantern higher. We must hold on. If they can't get in, maybe we can find a way to escape. Suddenly, a violent creaking filled the air, and the branches of the tree trembled as if in fear of the darkness creeping through the leaves. The shadows pressed against the treehouse, pulsating like a heartbeat, their chants now a frenzied crescendo. Then Emily gasped, pointing at the window. Look! Something's out there. Jake turned, the blood rushing from his face as he laid eyes on a figure, tall and twisted, its limbs contorted in ways that defied nature. It smiled through a mouth full of jagged teeth, glowing eyes fixed on them with a hunger that chilled him to the core. Your light won't save you, it whispered, the words thick with malice. Jake felt the ground beneath them quiver as if responding to the creature, the treehouse swaying dangerously. The lantern flickered, illuminating their fate. What do we do? Emily screamed, her eyes wide, with no plan, no time. Jake felt sheer panic close in one more time. The lantern provided light, but for how long? The horror had only just begun, and outside, the dark was relentless. As the world outside engulfed them, Jake yelled, "We have to jump." But into what? Would the landing be safety or doom? Rain of terror shrouded them. What awaited them below? Jake's mind raced. The lantern flickered, its glow turning the monstrous figure outside into a grotesque silhouette. Fear clawed at his throat as the creature pressed its face closer to the wall, mouth widening into a wicked, toothy grin. It was mocking them, savoring their terror, and Jake felt an overwhelming urge to flee. Jump! Emily shouted again, but panic swirled in her eyes. What if we break our legs? What if it's worse down there? Before Jake could respond, the entire treehouse shook violently, branches cracking, sending showers of leaves whispering down like a warning. The voice from below snickered, a chilling sound that curled around them like smoke. You think you can escape? You belong to me now. He had to think fast. Jake's gaze darted back to the lantern, its flame shrinking as the shadows outside seemed to swallow the light whole. We need to make it brighter. There has to be more fuel. Look around. Emily frantically opened a trunk filled with old childhood memories, a treasure trove of toys and trinkets long forgotten. Her hands shook as she pushed past the remnants of carefree days. There's nothing here, Jake. Just junk. Look harder. He yelled, desperation lacing his voice. The monstrous figure shrieked, a sound that pierced through Jake's chest like a dagger. He couldn't let it in. They fumbled through the trunk, heartbeats syncing with the rhythm of the lurking madness outside. Then, like a beacon from the past, Emily's fingers brushed over a dusty bottle of lamp oil, forgotten in the shadows. Jake! Look! Jake snatched it from her grasp, shaking it like a lifeline. This could work. Quickly, they poured the oil into the lantern's reservoir, hands trembling in their race against time. He struck another match, holding it to the wick. Flames roared to life, illuminating the treehouse in vivid light. But the creature outside only shrieked with rage. Its features morphed into an ugly mask, twisting in fury. "No! You cannot disrupt my feast." The lantern burned brightly, but Jake felt the air grow thick with a nauseating dread. "Maybe it's not enough," he whispered. "What do you mean?" Emily asked, confusion colliding with her panic. "Maybe we need to push it to the limit. We need to make it explode." The thought sent a shiver down Emily's spine. "Are you insane? That could kill us. We're dead if we don't try. Listen, we can take this lantern and throw it out the window. It'll blind it long enough for us to jump." Without waiting for more objections, Jake grabbed the lantern again, embers tracing fiery arcs around him. On 3. 1-2 before he could finish, the monstrous figure lunged, crashing into the treehouse with an earth-shattering force. The wood splintered beneath its weight, and they were thrown sideways. Jake barely managed to keep a grip on the lantern. "Now!" he shouted, and they both hurled the lantern out the window. It soared into the night, bursting into a blinding explosion of light and flame, illuminating the shadows like day. But then there was silence, a deafening void that wrapped around them like a shroud. They held their breaths, hearts pounding, waiting for whatever would come next, but the figure stood unmoving in the brilliant glow, its wide grin still plastered across its contorted face. "You think you can blind me? You have no idea who you're dealing with." Jake's stomach plunged. The treehouse groaned under the creature's weight, and he grabbed Emily's hand. "We have to move now." Just as they turned, the twisted shape lunged back, disappearing into the shadows of the now glowing forest. "Where do we go?" Emily cried, her voice laced with panic once more. Jake could only stare at the now shattered window. The monster might have retreated, but its laughter echoed in the night, a dark promise of anguish yet to come. "Out," he whispered, fear tightening its grip. "We jump, but do we know what waits for us down there?" The ominous question hung over them as the shadows outside swirled again, their laughter creeping closer. Jake's heart raced, pounding heavily against his ribcage as he exchanged glances with Emily. The chilling mix of fear and adrenaline coursed through his veins. She swallowed hard, eyes glistening with unshed tears, her voice mere breath. "Are we really going to jump?" With every second that passed, the thick air inside the treehouse felt staler, heavier, as if it carried the weight of the creature lurking just beyond the door. "We can't wait," he insisted, trying to suppress the tremor in his voice. "If we don't jump now, we're done for." Emily nodded, her face pale, fear etched deep into her features. Together, they edged toward the gaping hole where the window once stood, the cold night air rushing in like a warning. "On 3?" he asked, hoping to anchor her focus. "Please just do it," she replied, her bravado faltering. "Okay." 1-2 They both took a deep breath, and before he could get to 3, Jake leaped out into the dark void, pulling Emily along with him. The fall felt endless, the air whipping past them. Time stretched, and for a heartbeat, terror paralyzed Jake. He braced for impact, praying the ground wouldn't crack his bones like thin twigs. But then they hit the ground with a thud, a painful jolt that rattled through Jake's body, knocking the wind from his lungs. He gasped, rolling onto his side, fumbling for Emily. She groaned beside him, hands clutching her ankle. "Are you okay?" he rasped, panic rising anew. "I think I twisted it," she gasped. But the sound of crashing wood from above made him freeze. The treehouse shuddered. "We need to go," he urged. With gritted teeth, Emily struggled to stand, using Jake for support. "Where?" she managed, looking wildly around the dark terrain, shadows dancing under the oversized trees like malignant spirits. "Anywhere but here." He pulled her toward a nearby thicket, branches clawing at their clothes, as the creature's taunting laughter rumbled above, looping through the air like a malevolent song. "You can't escape what you belong to," it bellowed, echoing in Jake's mind like a curse. "You hear that?" Jake whispered, fear pooling in his gut. "It's getting closer." The dense forest loomed around them, black and unwelcoming. Every rustle made them jump. "We have to stay quiet," he instructed, scanning their surroundings, looking for somewhere to hide. Emily winced as pain shot through her ankle, but she pressed on, limping alongside him. Suddenly, they stumbled upon a decrepit shed, half hidden by the undergrowth. "In here," Jake urged, pulling the door open with a creak that sounded like a scream. They slipped inside, shrouded in darkness. The smell of rot saturated the air, and the floor was littered with broken tools and spider webs, undoubtedly untouched for years. Jake could barely see Emily's features, illuminated only by the distant glow of the moon filtering through a single cracked window. "Do you think it saw us?" she breathed, barely above a whisper. "It must have," he replied, heart racing. "But we can't let it catch us." As they huddled together, the walls of the shed felt like they were closing in on them. The creature's laughter echoed in the stillness, sending ice through Jake's veins. "It's playing games," he muttered, dread gnawing at his sanity. "And we don't even know what the rules are." Suddenly, there was a loud crash outside. The shed trembled as something massive collided with it. The door rattled, splintering wood splashing the air with dust. Jake's breathing quickened, and in that moment, all hope drained from him. "Jake," Emily whimpered, clutching his arm as desperation bubbled in her throat. "What if it finds us here?" He tightened his grip on her, but a flicker of movement caught his eye. Shadows coalesced just beyond the window, shifting unnaturally. The shape was familiar but twisted, as if the dark had formed a mirror of their worst fears. "Get down," he hissed, pulling her close. The laughter rose to a fever pitch, echoing around them, drowning out all thought. An irrational thought dawned on Jake. What if the whispers were right? What if they were already too far gone? The door burst open, and the silhouette snaked forward, looming, engulfing the very light that dared shine. "What are you afraid of most?" it hissed, and Jake realized with dawning horror that he couldn't tell if it was asking or affirming. The moment stretched, entangled in a web of dread until he felt it. A chill creeping in, wrapping around his heart. As darkness closed in, Jake was faced with the most chilling decision of all, one that would decide not just their fate, but everything they had ever known. "Emily," he whispered, dread pooling in his belly. "What if we have to give it something to survive?" A breath caught in her throat, silence swallowed the world as they awaited what came next. Jake's fingers trembled as he held Emily close, the shadows swirling around them thick as fog, suffocating in their intensity. He could feel her heart race against his arm like a trapped bird. The air was charged, thick with suffocating dread. "What if it comes in here?" Emily whispered, her breath trembling. The fear in her voice clawed at him, digging deep into his gut. "They want to play?" Jake muttered, trying to mask his fear. "Then let us make them work for it." The bravado felt hollow, but in that moment, it was all he had. The laughter grew louder outside, an odd, guttural mix that dripped with malice. The creature seemed to savor the moment, toying with them like a cat with a mouse. Jake pressed his back against the wall, closing his eyes for just an instant, focusing on the dark void behind his eyelids. A scraping sound made his heart lurch. Something was outside the shed, circling them. Footsteps slithered on the wood, heavy and deliberate, as if the darkness itself had taken form to stalk them. With bated breath, he leaned closer to Emily, whispering, "If it breaks in, we have to fight. We can't let it take us." The door rattled violently, splinters raining down as the entity outside thrust itself against the wood. The laughter morphed into a growl, grating against the back of Jake's mind. His mouth was dry, but he couldn't lose focus. The walls felt like they were vibrating with a life of their own, buzzing under the weight of the unspeakable horror outside. "Emily, do you believe in sacrificing something for survival?" he asked, desperation threading his voice. "Like what?" she stammered. "Anything. A secret, a memory, something it wants." I don't know, but if that's the only way, the thought terrified him, yet he knew they could end up becoming mere whispers in the dark, forgotten by time. "I won't give it anything," she said fiercely, though the quaver in her voice betrayed her fear. "You don't understand," he hissed, panic leaking into his words. "This is bigger than us. It wants to devour our souls." The door creaked ominously as another heavy thud resonated against it. They braced for the worst, but it only crumpled under the force, sending splinters flying into the dark. It staggered back, then pushed itself forward once more. This time the door swung wide open, revealing the encroaching dark, a void yawning before them. The creature loomed in the doorway, backlit by the pale moonlight, an amalgamation of shadows that seemed to suck every glimmer of hope from the air. It was hideous, with eyes like burning coals and a smile stretched across a jagged maw. "What will you give?" It spoke again, voice silky yet jagged, laced with a kind of power that made Jake's skin crawl. Emily gripped tighter to Jake, fear radiating off her in waves. "We don't have anything for you," she shouted defiantly, but uncertainty seeped into her tone. "Everyone has something," the creature drawled. "Perhaps your deepest fear?" Jake's heart pounded. The price of survival dangled like bait before them. "Emily, it's playing with us," he murmured, desperation lacing his voice. As the full horror of their situation loomed closer, Jake felt the oppressive weight of inevitability bearing down. Suddenly, a thought pierced the fog of fear. What if the creature fed on their unresolved past? "Emily," he began, shoving aside his trepidation. "What if we have to confront it? Our fears? The darkness in us to come out the other side?" She shook her head, eyes wide with disbelief. "You can't be serious." "I am. We have to unravel the truth in order to escape." The creature's laughter crescendoed, filling the shed with a malevolent harmony. "Choose your sacrifice, or be consumed," it hissed, slowly stepping into the shed, shadows a tangled mess around it. Jake's breath quickened. "What are we going to do?" Emily blurted out, panic taking over, and in that heart-stopping moment, just as the world around them darkened more, Jake knew they stood at a terrifying crossroads, where escaping the monster also meant facing their own nightmares. A single flicker of hope danced amidst the dread, but it came with a price. What hidden truth would they have to confront to survive the night? What sacrifices would be demanded in exchange for freedom? As the darkness encroached, time seemed to stall, leaving only one thought to hang heavy in the air. What if they made the wrong choice? The creature slithered closer, the shadows writhing like living serpents, feeding off the growing dread. Jake could almost taste the malice in the air, sharp and metallic. His heart thundered in his chest, a frantic drumbeat urging him to act, to fight, to flee. But fear had frozen them both in place. "Emily, listen to me." His voice came out in a strained whisper as he took a step forward, forcing his wavering courage into every word. "We can't give it what it wants without knowing what that is. We have to dig deeper into ourselves. Bring our fears to light. Maybe it can't harm us if we aren't afraid." The words stumbled out, tangled in urgency. She looked at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I don't want to. What if it takes everything?" Her voice cracked, each syllable heavy. With the creature looming ever closer, Jake swallowed hard. "We have to trust each other. If we don't confront it, one of us will be taken or worse." A long pause dragged between them, heavy with weight. The creature's grin widened sharp, jagged teeth glimmering like old knives. It inhaled deeply, nostrils flaring as if tasting their fear, savoring the moment. "Time's running out, little ones," it jeered, its voice a honeyed trap that seeped through the air. "What will it be? Sacrifice willingly or become my feast in the darkness?" Emily's breath came in quick gasps. "Jake, what are we doing?" A chilling thought scraped against the edges of his sanity. What if their secrets weren't just burdens, but anchors that kept them alive? We can tell each other. We face our fears together. Her gaze turned inward, darting to the floor. You first then. I'll follow. All right. He felt the tremble inside his chest. I'm afraid that I'm not enough. That all the times I tried to be brave were just me pretending. The words poured forth, raw and ugly. It felt dangerously freeing, but each admission came with an undeniable weight. You could never be just pretending, Emily said softly, you're the bravest person I know. The creature paused, as if hungry for their exchange. The air thickened around them. She inhaled deeply. My turn. Her voice trembled. I'm terrified of losing you. That I'm not worth saving. I'd fight the world to save you. He stepped closer, eyes fierce. We cannot give in. We are stronger together. The creature recoiled as if stung. Such pitiful bonds are nothing. Face the darkest corners of your mind for your freedom. The shadows twisted violently, ripping through the silence. Emily clenched her fists, determination igniting in her eyes. Jake, let us confront our truth. Together. For a moment, they shared a glance. Something unspoken passed between them, a fragile thread of hope woven through the web of fear, tightening their resolve. Then what are we waiting for? Jake shouted against the encroaching darkness. Show us. What do you want from us? Emily screamed into the void, her voice cutting through the creature's laughter. The creature paused, its smile faltering, just for a moment. Your secrets. Your hidden sins. Unravel them, it hissed. Let them out, and I shall decide if they are enough. Jake felt the knot of dread loosen, but only slightly. They had taken a brave step, but what awaited them could be far more dangerous. The walls of the shed shuddered as shadows coiled tightly. A renewed weight pressed down on them, filled with memories and truths. Can you bear it? The creature taunted, leaning closer. Can you face all that you've hidden? Suddenly, voices from the past echoed in Jake's mind. Faces of regret and doubt materialized in the blackness, haunting him. He was standing on the edge, teetering between light and dark. What if? He started, uncertainty creeping back in. Jake! Emily cried out, eyes wide. No! Don't step back now. The creature laughed, a hair-raising sound that filled every inch of the shed, vibrating through the walls and into their bones. You're running out of time. And as the laughter threatened to drown them, Jake realized they had only scratched the surface of what truly haunted them. What if the revelations to come were more terrifying than the monster itself? Tear the fabric. The creature demanded, shadows shifting, claws reaching out for them. With the darkness closing in, Jake reached for Emily, and together they stepped into the abyss, ready to face what lay buried deep within. But as their fears began to unravel, one chilling thought froze them both. What if the monster they faced was not outside, but within? The darkness enveloped them, a suffocating blanket that twisted around their bodies. Shadows crawled over the walls, thick and alive, as if feeding off their unraveling secrets. Jake felt Emily's fingers tighten around his arm. Her breath hitched, a fragile whisper in the void. Jake, it was barely a sound, more a breath of dread, as the creature hovered above them. Its eyes glowed like embers, catching every flicker of fear that danced between the two. What do you see? It taunted, mocking their silence. Jake's heart raced. Suddenly, memories stabbed through him like shards of glass, past failures, bitter regrets, the faces of those he had let down. Each one a chain anchoring him, pulling him back from the brink. I see my sister, he said, voice trembling. The day I failed to protect her. With that admission, the walls shook. Emily gasped, her breath sharp like ice. No. Not that. But it was too late. The air thickened with the scent of earth and decay as the creature contorted into a form that looked eerily like his sister. "Why didn't you save me, Jake?" It hissed, a voice laced with anguish, mirroring the fear he had bottled away. "You let me fall." Jake recoiled, sickened. Emily moved to protect him, but shadows lashed out, trapping her. "Emily!" he shouted, trying to pull her free, but the darkness tightened its grip. "Face your fear." The creature roared, shifting, melting away into the inky void. "You will both show me your sins or witness the other consumed." Emily whimpered, her eyes wide with horror. "Jake, I can't do this. I can't bear the truth. There's no choice." Jake shouted, pulling her close. He felt her tremble, the heat of her fear curling into his skin. Together. As they locked eyes, an unspoken understanding passed between them. This was their moment, the precipice over their dark secrets. "I'm afraid," she whispered, "that I trusted the wrong people. That I chose the wrong path." A low rumble formed in the depths of the shed, as if the earth itself recoiled at her revelation. The shadows darkened, pooling heavily at their feet. For a moment, Jake felt the weight of her admission crashing upon him, threatening to pull them into despair, but she pressed on, voice quaking. "I'm terrified of being alone, of never being enough. That's why we're in this together." Jake shouted. "We'll unravel this ourselves and break its hold." The creature writhed within the shadows, furious at their defiance. "Pathetic." It screeched, "You should fear each other's truths. What if we don't?" Jake called back, drawing strength from Emily's presence. "What if these fears make us stronger?" At that moment, they felt it, a pulse of energy igniting between them, a fragile but fierce light pushing through the dark. Step by step, the grasp of the shadows weakened. They had made a choice to confront what haunted them, no matter the cost. As the creature shrieked in fury and denial, reality warped around them, memories swirling like a storm. The shadows hissed and spat, trying to pull them apart. "It's working!" Emily cried, her voice steadying. "Keep going. Show me your fears." And as they uttered words lost to time, laying bare every hidden truth, an euphoria coursed through them. The dark began to ripple, breaking under the weight of their unity, but within the chaos, another powerful truth surged forth, a revelation that had remained buried for too long. Emily's eyes widened in terror as realization hit her. "There's something deeper, something we don't know." The ground shook violently, shadows throbbing and writhing in a convulsion of rage. Jake gripped Emily's hand tighter, fear creeping back into his veins. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together," he said, but uncertainty gnawed at him. From the depths of the swirling chaos, a voice, smooth as silk but dripping with malice, whispered. "You think you've won, but you've merely scratched the surface. What if your greatest fear is each other?" For the first time, Jake felt a crack in their bond, a ripple of doubt worming its way into his mind. "Emily?" The reflection of a deeper darkness within her glimmered in her gaze. And before Jake could fully grasp the weight of that truth, the shadows lunged forward, swallowing their cries into the abyss. The darkness swallowed them whole as panic surged through Jake. Heart pounding, he couldn't shake the shadowy whisper that lingered in his mind, "What if your greatest fear is each other?" Emily's expression shifted, an eerie glint haunting her eyes. The warmth of her touch faded, and the shadows thickened, a dark mist rising around them, tightening its grip. Jake struggled, but the air thickened like molasses, dragging him down. "Emily!" he yelled, desperation clawing at his throat. "Don't let it in." But doubt flickered between them, scratching at the edges of their connection like a frantic animal. "Jake, I feel strange." Her face paled, growing taut as the truth settled in. What if it's right?" The creature's laughter echoed around them, mocking and cruel. "Ah, sweet fear. Isn't she lovely? Such fragile trust you build, only for it to shatter like glass. No! Jake shouted, gritting his teeth, forcing his memories to reshape. He felt the roundness of a childhood memory, a laughing Emily at summer camp, sun-kissed and free. He grasped at that thought, trying to anchor them both. You're more than the darkness. Remember us. But the shadows twisted, coiling like serpents. Is she really your ally? Or just another weight? The voice wrapped around him, teasing, slithering through the cracks in his resolve. No, I can't lose you. Jake felt cold terror grip his chest, but Emily's face dissolved into a grimace of anguish. You can't hold me, Jake. What if you're the reason for my fears? No! He screamed, shaking her, but the shadows roared louder, drowning out his protests. Each horrific accusation bounded off the walls, echoing like a warped confession. You think you know each other? The creature hissed, delving deep into their thoughts. You're both just masks hiding what you truly are. A fierce wind howled within the shed, whipping their hair and clothes. Memories interwove, blending truth with lies. Jake stumbled, grappling with a vision of Emily's betrayal, a twisted night in a dark alley, laughter echoing through the night. The moment flickered and faded, replaced by something deeper, a secret she had never told him. Stop. You're lying. Jake's voice turned desperate, a raw nerve exposed. Am I? It crooned, slithering closer, dense with temptation. What about that night at the party? When she left you? It whispered, pulling tighter until he could taste the panic on the back of his tongue. Emily trembling, she shifted, caught in the grip of an inexorable truth. I didn't want to be there. I was scared of you getting hurt. I thought I could protect you by leaving. Did you? Or did you just want to save yourself? The shadows laughed, their mirth echoed and rolled like thunder. Jake felt sick. The light between them dimmed, flickering like a dying flame. He wanted to scream, wanted to shake her from this spell. Emily, please. Fight it. We can't let it win. But the shadows twisted into her likeness, the light gone. It's too late for you both. The darkness speaks truths you cannot deny. In the chaos, a moment of clarity jolted through Jake. No. Our bond is stronger than this. He lunged toward Emily, reaching for that glimmer of hope they had ignited together. The shadows jerked, shuddering as if stung, but the creature twisted back. Your denial is the real horror, it hissed, the shadows swelling in a wild frenzy. Face it, you remain chained to your fears. Can you trust her or yourself? Gasping, Jake felt the darkness close in. He could feel his own fears creeping back, wrapping around him tighter than the shadows. Maybe Jake. Emily's voice cut through the murk. Don't. Remember what we faced together. The air crackled, tension swelling between them as their hands stretched out, trembling to meet one another, trying to break the suffocating grip of the darkness, and just as their fingers brushed, the shadows lunged again, fonging out like starving beasts, and Jake knew their greatest test was yet to come, one that would expose them both. What secrets lay buried beneath the surface, and how much would they have to pay to escape the encroaching abyss? The air crackled with electricity as Jake and Emily faced the abyss, the creature looming before them, its presence a gnawing reminder of the darkness within. Shadows danced around them like hungry specters, wrapping tighter with each whisper the entity unleashed. You think you can escape, it hissed, its form distorting in the gloom. You are nothing without your fears. And I will consume them. Jake's heart thundered in his chest. Fear clawed at him, but a flicker of defiance ignited in his soul. He grasped Emily's hand, feeling the tremors coursing through her. We won't let you take us, he shouted, determination surging as they locked their gaze onto the swirling shadows. He could feel the essence of their bond, their shared memories and love acting as a fragile shield against the malevolence surrounding them. Speak your truths, the creature jeered, its eyes burning with insatiable hunger. Unravel them to me, and perhaps I'll spare you. Jake glanced at Emily, hope mingling with fear in her wide eyes. "Together," he whispered. "We'll do this together. Our truths are our power." The shadows thrashed, seeking to separate them, but they stood firm, palms pressed tightly together. Jake took a deep breath, his voice trembling but steady. "I fear losing you. Losing my family and this happiness." The ground shuddered, tremors rippling as if the entire world reacted to his confession. "It terrifies me that I'm not strong enough." The creature recoiled slightly, but the shadows continued to swirl, relentless. It lunged forward, baring its jagged teeth. "Pathetic. The strength you seek lies hidden, drowned in darkness." "No." Emily interjected, her voice bolstered by his courage. "I fear feeling alone, that I won't matter anymore." Memories flooded back, the warmth of summer days, laughter echoing beneath the treehouse, those fleeting moments of joy now marred by the weight of existence. "But I won't give into despair. I choose to fight." And with her admission, a blinding light sprang forth, wrapping around them like a protective cocoon, pushing back against the darkness that threatened to consume them. It flickered, illuminated by the power of shared truths. The creature hissed violently, shadows swirling in chaos. "You think you can triumph by merely voicing your fears?" A surge of darkness twisted around it, but the piercing light grew stronger, fueled by their unwavering connection. "We don't just share fears," Jake shouted. "We share love, strength, and hope." With each word, the brightness illuminated their surroundings, a glorious force beckoning them toward salvation. As if sensing defeat, the creature seethed, and the air grew thick again, its malevolence clawing wildly. "This isn't over." It thundered, shadows lunging in a frenzy. "You may have escaped this moment, but I will return. Your bonds will shatter under the weight of your truths." But Jake and Emily stood resolute. "No!" They shouted in unison, hearts synchronized in defiance. "You have no power here. We are stronger together." The light burst forth, radiant and blinding, enveloping the creature in a blaze of brightness, its form stretching and distorting as if pulled by unseen forces. It let out a blood-curdling scream. The sound echoed and faded away, absorbed by the engulfing light. In an instant, the shadows recoiled, and the oppressive weight lifted, leaving only remnants of darkness swirling into oblivion. The world around them shifted, trees brightening, the night sky clearing. Light reclaimed its rightful place. Breathless, Jake looked at Emily, who blinked, wide-eyed and tearful. Did we win?" "I think so," he breathed, collapsing into her arms as relief washed over them like a wave. They held onto each other tightly, hearts racing, knowing that while they had battled the shadows, the journey forward would be a new challenge. "Together," Emily said softly, her grip tightening. "We'll face whatever comes next." As dawn broke over Meadowbrook, the siblings emerged from the ordeal not just as survivors, but as warriors standing against the darkness. The world felt alive. Again, a canvas painted with hope. They ventured back to Maple Lane, leaving behind whispers of doubt and a treehouse that had witnessed their fears as they stepped into the sunlight, finally embracing their truth. The treehouse stood, waiting for new memories, but now it felt less an entity of fear and more like a testimony of resilience. Their laughter would fill the air again, more vibrant than ever. As they walked back home, Jake felt a resolve within him that had never existed before. They had faced the darkness, and now they carried the light. But as the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadows began to stretch once more, one thing echoed in their minds: true strength lies in facing fears together. Don't forget, if you like this story, subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive adventures. Smash that like button now to show your support and feed the algorithm. We want your thoughts. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what happens next. And please, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this thrilling conclusion. This is the moment to show your love for the channel, and only true fans will understand the importance of supporting these tales. Don't wait even one more second.